I've got my mic on mute. That's a great start, isn't it? Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 1989 Arcade Bar Podcast. This is episode 3. I'm so sorry for everybody who's watching live about us running late again. My fault, always my fault. It's so much my fault that I've decided that these live streams and live recordings are going to happen at 7:30 on Monday nights now. So not 7 o'clock, but 7:30, so we can give ourselves that 30-minute buffer that I seem to need to get myself organized. But Taiku in the house, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Hello, everybody. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a lovely week or had a lovely week and had a lovely weekend. I had a lovely weekend. I worked at the bar for the entire weekend, which was lovely and interesting. We had a really good stag doing on Saturday day, and then on Saturday night, we had our usual Saturday night antics, and it was busy. It was great. There were people back in the bar, and it was fun. And then on Sunday, just gone, as in yesterday, we had our coin-op event, our beer tasting and arcade masterclass event, which went very, very well with the wonderful Reckless Brewing crew. Hello, Alex. Welcome. Alex was there, and he played in the Mario competition. I can't remember where Alex came, but he got a good score. I remember that. But that was really good fun. So Reckless Brewing treated us to 5 beers. Normally at these beer tasting, there's 4, but they treated us to 5, which is pretty cool. And it was great. It was really good fun. Martin Tane Taylor smashed it, showing everybody how to play Mario Brothers, our original Mario Brothers arcade, and that was super fun. And we had a lot of people play. I think we had like 12, 13, maybe even 14 people play, which is great. All putting down high scores and having a really good time and winning more beer and more merchandise and all that kind of stuff. And Alex is still recovering from the booze. It was a really boozy day yesterday, within RSA restrictions, obviously, but it was a good boozy day yesterday. PCAR964, I was there Saturday night. It was good to be there. Thanks, man. Thank you for coming in. It's lovely that it's getting busy again on Saturday nights. And Saturday night was there was a really good vibe in the place on Saturday night. So welcome. This is the 1989 Arcade Bar Podcast, episode 3. Today, we will be talking about the late, great Ivan Reitman and his films. Very sad news that Ivan Reitman passed last week or the week before at the time of recording this podcast. Very, very sad. So I figured that it would be wonderful to do an episode dedicated to him and his memory and his films, because those films were very special to a lot of us growing up, and especially to my cohort, co-guest, co-presenter, Mr. Tom Barbat, who I'm going to add to the podcast right now. Here he is. There he is, everybody. There's Tom.
Hello. How are you, Benny?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just
look at that wonderful
archive of VHS wonders.
Oh my God! Look at that beautiful.
Ready to showcase all 3 Ivan Reitman films I think I have in my collection. There's probably some I haven't thought of which are buried in there somewhere. I just went for the obvious ones. I thought Ghostbusters, Twins, I think he exec produced Kindergarten Cop, and so it's about all I got. But I'm sure there's something buried back in there that I also have with his name on it. So
oh man, definitely, because he produced a lot of movies. We'll dive into that. But before we kick off, two things. One is I'm eating my dinner, everybody, so I'm really sorry about that. Have to squeeze this in, otherwise I will collapse halfway through this from not having any food. 2, my beautiful baby daughter is roaming around, so she might sort of join us at some point. So a heads up about that. And 3 points. Third point is that Tom is one of the 2 hosts who run the VHS Flea Pit evening at 989 Arcade Bar, the namesake of this podcast. And as you can see, Tom is a very serious VHS collector. Serious as in not serious as in enthusiastic, but more like serious as in like he gets tapes a lot. He is a big collector. He does a lot of collecting of the old VHS tapes. And if you don't know, I'll just give you guys a quick picture of the old VHS Flea Pit. It's a wonderful evening that is coming back to 89. We've got to iron out a few things that we've got to get sorted before we bring it back. But it's basically a evening where we screen trash cinema, so that'll be fantasy, horror, science fiction movies, all sort of low budget, kind of like fun, off the radar sort of stuff that you wouldn't necessarily see on another format. And we screen it off of VHS, so it's screened off of VHS for its fuzzy 4:3 picture and sound. But Tom, I'm sure we'll talk about that more, because as I said, Tom and his fellow VHS collector Dusty are the 2 guys who have the tapes, who curate the viewing pleasures for your eyeballs when you come in and enjoy a VHS Flea Pit night at 89. So yeah, Tom is the man, and as you can see from this VHS collection behind him, there is a lot of fun stuff to choose from.
There is, and I must admit, Ben, I don't have a lot of trash. It's not really my niche, and that's an interesting, I guess, of gears in terms of the concept of. I mean, the cornerstone of Flea Pit is trash cinema and things that are at their most glorious in their 4:3 fuzzy sort of format, and often weren't ever released on DVD or Blu-ray, let alone 4K. But it's quite a specific sort of thing to go that deep into the world of VHS trash, horror, fantasy, all that sort of stuff. And if you love it, it's amazing. And some people do have that interest. But I think there's a gateway point that could get people more interested in that sort of stuff. And I think that's coming through a slightly not as low budget angle, but still things that aren't obvious, popular sort of titles, things that are sort of a bit B grade, but there might be some sort of point of connection or familiarity. Which can draw people into that trash world of VHS, which we know and love. But even as a collector, it's not really what I collect, because I like stuff that's more in that middle ground of there's a famous actor. It's like early in, any famous actor's career, and they did obscure films that no one's really heard about. But it's kind of fascinating seeing those guys who are huge 90s actors back in the early 80s roles that even they want to try and forget, let alone everyone else. So unearthing some of those gems can be a lot of fun, and they're actually not always as bad as you might think. They probably got panned at the time as a 2 out of 5, very mediocre sort of film, but they're very much a product of their time when you go back to them and you think this is actually not maybe as bad as the critics said back then. And it's such a showcase of that moment in time in the 80s, and so and so is looking very young, and actually you can see he's already a talented actor at that young age. The script's a bit average, but it's got cool music and it's got a cool feel, and there's some hidden sort of gems in this kind of lost no man's land of 80s and 90s movies, things that weren't good enough to be sort of cult or popular sort of classics, things that aren't bad enough to be considered trash. They kind of sit somewhere in the middle, and some of that stuff is genuinely mediocre, but some of that stuff is fantastic. And I guess the example of something that might fall into that sort of space would be, I don't know, something like Super Mario Brothers film, which is a pretty average film in a lot of ways, but it's got a fascinating history. And some aspects of it hold up very well. Others are pretty woeful. But because of the association with the video games, obviously, it's something that's a lost gem and definitely worth unearthing for a movie night at 1989. Definitely plays into the theme of the arcade bar. And there's a few other things I suppose we could showcase. I was thinking of kicking off, and it's a bit of a statement of where I think this should sit in terms of this of my night hosting it. I was thinking of doing The Wizard with Christian Slater and Fred Savage, because it's got that connection to Super Mario Brothers 3. It's basically a 90-minute NES commercial, but really it's just a fun family film, and it's it doesn't get much more 80s than a kids movie with Fred Savage. Like, that's nostalgic even if you'd never seen it, because you would have seen him in the Wonder Years. So it would kind of feed into that familiarity. Even if you don't know the film, it'll feel familiar because you know the actors, and there's that Super Mario 3 reference. And that's the sort of thing that could be fun to get people through the doorway of this sort of VHS trash movie world, just because it's sort of accessible and there's a point of connection. And that's the stuff I love. And I'm really keen to share that stuff with a more general audience. But what I'd like to do is feed them more and more, so they want to go deeper and darker into the depths of Dustin's quite formidable trash collection, because he has, every week his collection keeps building with like expensive tapes, which are very hard to find, and they're incredible for people who appreciate it. His collection is just wonderful. Mine's much more mainstream, but I guess that's just where my tastes lie. I like the more mainstream stuff, but I've covered pretty much all the classics. Now I'm digging to that next level of familiarity with the actors, directors, themes, stuff like that, but movies I've never seen or maybe never even heard of. And I'm sort of digging deeper into that next layer. It's not trash quite yet. Some of it is, I guess, pretty much trash, but yeah, it's that middle ground stuff. So what we're going to call this aspect of Flea Pit is the guilty pleasures night. I think we've settled on that as a concept.
100%, yeah. Absolutely.
Kind of sums up what I've just been talking about.
Yeah, 100%. Like, films like Mac and Me. I still see Mac as Me as one of those wonderful guilty pleasures. Yeah, the Mario Brothers movie for sure. I mean, even things like, when people say, so somebody in the comments mentioning Escape from New York is too good
Yeah,
a guilty
it's too
pleasure.
culty. It's too cult, I reckon.
It's too good. It's good John Carpenter. It's John Carpenter when he was making great films. So, you know, we're talking things like, and this is all subjective, of course, but we're talking stuff like, you know, Short Circuit 1 and 2. Like Tom says, The Wizard, things like that. Things like movies that you probably watched when you were a kid, maybe watched once, The Explorers, things like
Correct.
that, you know, Inner
100%.
Space.
You've just given away like the first 5 movies of the night.
No, there we go. Buy your tickets now, folks, when they come online.
But I think we'll advertise these ones because the trash movies Dustin does, no one will have ever heard of them. But that's half the glory of them. They're these things people have never heard of, but they have amazing cover art, or you know, they're just beautiful trash gems of lost cinema. But this sort of stuff people will have some familiarity with, or at least it'll be intriguing because they'll see the actor, they'll think, Molly Ringwald and Robert Downey Jr. did a movie together. Cool. All right. Never realized that. Never heard of this title, but I know who they are. Maybe I'll give it a go. Stuff like that could just, I don't know, it can just create that point of interest.
Oh yeah, 100%. And people love these movies. The people are out there who love these movies. Who, you know, there's this kind of weird sort of fine line of like, if you're watching an old film like that, you would have watched it off of VHS when you were a kid.
Correct.
If you're old enough, if you're in the same sort of age bracket as us, you would have watched Mario Brothers on VHS or gone to the cinema to see it. You probably would not have seen a beautiful high definition digital print of it. You know what I mean? It would have always been 35 mil.
All of
analog. Exactly, a 35 mil print or on VHS. So we are. Is that thunder? Holy moly, we're in the middle of a thunderstorm here, guys. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so the idea is that you'll be watching it off a format that you'll recognize if you're in our age bracket, and it will just adds to the joy of re-experiencing those films that you may have forgotten about. And the other aspect of Flea Pit, which is really important, is the fact that it's watching it with like-minded people. You know what I mean? It's like in a room with people who love these films, and the Flea Pit, which for Dustin's Flea Pits, we don't actually tell you what the film is. It's like a surprise because they're so trashy and out there that it's almost like you don't know what you're going to get. And that's the joy of the VHS Flea Pit. You're already going in just with people who love low budget stuff, love genre films. You know, you have a few beers, you shout at the screen, you just tell the film how crap it is. It's a whole interactive, fun sort of
a lot of fun. When there's a good crowd and everyone gets into it, it's a lot of fun. It
really is. I mean, if anybody's going to see The Room at the Orpheum and there's that whole interactive element of like watching The Room, it's like that, but not as sort of full on. You know what I mean? It's like it's almost as if you're sitting in the living room with your mates, just bagging out a film. It's that kind of thing.
It's all those movies like you would have seen at the video store when you were young, with like an amazing cover, terrible film. And maybe you hired it one night with your mates and watched it. Like, that was really bad. But, like, almost with the passage of time, it becomes endearing. It's endearingly bad. And it's almost fun to revisit things that are just, did this even get made and released? Yeah. Like, wow. But what a cool cover. Like, no wonder I hired it. And it takes you back to those days at the video store where you kind of were judging a book by its cover. And sometimes it was a mistake. But it's fun. It's fun revisiting those things and just, I don't know. Like, a lot of it's the trailers. Like, the trailers really get going. People forget what it's like watching trailers and all the commercials for like old Pizza Hut ads or Sega Master System advertisement and all the warnings, video piracy, all that stuff just takes people back into that headspace of, God, I remember that. I haven't seen that in bloody 25 years, but geez, it's a hit of nostalgia, you know, and then the trailers get you going and then it rolls into the feature film and it's just fun, you know, like.
Yeah, and it's those, especially with the trailers, because you get the really badly cut together trailers with like, you know, really bad fonts and graphics and all that kind of stuff, and then you get trailer voice guy that you forget about. In a world, in a time, no, one man must face off against the entire force of werewolves or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You get that because they don't do trailers like that anymore. Trailers
I feel like their voices were deeper back then. It's like yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah, the trailer voice, man, so good. So yes, VHS Flea Pit is coming back. One of the wonderful events that we do at 98.9. I'm really excited to get it back. We've been talking for a while about doing this in this format because we want to make it, and accessible is the right word, because like Flea Pit can be a little bit sort of it's not full on.
It's 0 to 100. If you're not a huge cult genre like trash movie fan, it's kind of 0 to 100 experience. Maybe you need a bit of a dabble in something else before you're ready.
Yeah. I highly recommend going to either or evenings, as they're just super fun. And tickets will be available soon when we organize dates and all that kind of stuff. So, and keep an eye on our socials for all that kind of stuff. 1989 Arcade Bar on Facebook, Instagram, and our website, www.1989.com.au. Because, we got a lot more event stuff happening as well. But the Flea Pit, I'm most looking forward to returning because it's a really good night. And hopefully it'll be happening on evenings. Actually, it will be happening on evenings. I'm working, so that sucks.
Tuesdays, right? Did we settle on
Tuesdays? Yeah, Tuesdays, twice a month. So yeah, that's the night I work. Great. So I can't.
So there's one trash night, one guilty pleasures night. So
a month. Yeah.
Cool.
2 a month. Yeah. And we're talking about doing special events as well. We're working on potentially doing a film festival, which would be really fun, like a horror film festival in October. We've got some really good fun plans for that. So that'll be announced when we've kind of nutted it out a bit more, which will be super exciting. But hence why Tommy's, joining me for this very special episode, talking about Ivan Reitman, his work, a bit about his life, but mainly about his work, because we are in the age bracket that grew up with his movies. They informed us as children into adults, and they're still films that we enjoy today. The man had a very amazing career in comedy, especially. And he's one of those characters that kind of was always in the background, was never in the forefront. Like, you've got Steven Spielberg, you've got all the other big guys, Richard Donner and all those kind of guys who you sort of know as the director of like The Goonies or Superman, those films that you loved. And I always felt that Ivan Reitman was sort of like, he was the Ghostbusters guy, and he'd done a handful of other things. Like, for instance, I'm ashamed to say, and I'm going to put my hand up right now, I didn't realize he was the guy behind Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was the, he did that, and he did, produce things like, he produced a lot of films as well as directing. He directed Kindergarten Cop, did a load of comedies with Schwarzenegger, which we'll talk about, but also he was a producer of Beethoven and Space Jam.
Yeah.
He produced tons of stuff.
They're all great films. When you look at like Twins and Kindergarten Cop, you're like, well, that absolutely makes sense that was the same producer.
Yeah.
Although he directed Twins, but he produced Kindergarten Cop, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did he?
I'll tell you what we'll do. Let me quickly just go through his early life, because I just want to touch upon this, because there's a really good podcast. I don't know if anybody listens to it here, but I highly recommend listening to Mark Moran's podcast. It's called WTF with Mark Moran, and he interviews a lot of famous people, and he is a fantastic interviewer. He's a comedian. He just reposted his interview he did with Ivan Reitman back in 2014, and Mark's really good at just having a really good conversation with people, and for them to just sort of chat and just, unload all these things that they've gone through in their lives and they've done. And Ivan talks about his younger years, because he was born in Hungary, but in Czechoslovakia. So he was predominantly Hungarian and born in a Hungarian town in Czechoslovakia on the October 27th in 1946. And his parents were Jewish. His mother survived Auschwitz concentration camp, and his father was an underground resistance fighter. So already his family history is very full on, of the era, wow. And his family basically escaped their homeland and went to Canada. So that's where obviously Ivan was brought up, in Canada. And I can't really go into this in too much detail. It's just a very interesting history, because his parents obviously... It's all on Wikipedia. It's all on Wikipedia. Exactly. Go to Wikipedia or listen to this interview with Mark Moran, because it's really good. It's a really good interview, and he goes into this background, but already a very interesting background. Born in October 27, 1946, so left us at the tender age of 75. He was so young when you think about it. And just to skip ahead, he didn't look like a guy who, drunk too much, gone too hard, wasn't going to live a long life. He looked like a pretty healthy man for his age. For sure. Yeah, crazy. Morbid. I don't think they've actually said what the cause of death was. But just very sad that he's not with us anymore. The sad that he's not with us, but also he was beginning pre-production on his not his third comedy film with Schwarzenegger, but his sort of spiritual third film in his Twins and Junior sort of trilogy, I guess you could say, called Triplets. So he was doing that with, I've got a link here, because Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about him passing. But yeah, they were just they were just about to shoot Triplets, which obviously reunited Schwarzenegger with Ivan Reitman directing with Danny DeVito.
Jason's got to pick that up.
Oh, well, I don't know. There's no update there. So one would presume something will
Thank
happen
God
to
his
keep
son
that.
is like he's obviously grown up with his father. He's up under his wing. And you've seen Afterlife. I don't know how good his directing chops are. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh well, I mean, like Jason's CV is pretty impressive
Yeah, he's already.
already. He's done a lot of stuff, which I haven't actually got in front of me, but I know that Ivan produced a couple of things. Like he did. So, for instance, obviously he directed the new Ghostbusters film Afterlife, but he also did Up in the Air, which was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah.
This is Jason Ivan. This Reitman. This is not Ivan. This is his son we're talking about, and he did a few loads of other stuff. I'll pull up his CV later on. And we can have a quick look. But yeah, skipping ahead, I enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife. I
Yeah.
can't really go into too much detail without revealing too many spoilers, but it's a film that's got a lot of plot holes. That's all I'll say. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I was along for the ride. It was great, but it's got a ton of massive plot
What,
holes.
more than the first two Ghostbusters movies?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So Alex Hawkins is saying in the chat, Juno, is that a Jason Reitman film? Did he do Juno? Because Juno I remember Juno being a big deal when it came out. Was Triplets After Twins? Yes, Triplets were they were just about to shoot. They're just in pre-production, due to shoot this month. Reuniting Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito.
They've got to do it, right?
Yeah, they've got to. Yeah, even if it's in memory of Ivan. But yeah, it's good. Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's the third Ghostbusters film that we should have got in 2016 that we didn't get.
Controversial.
You know what I mean? I mean, 2016 movies just like, oh no, we can't. We could do a whole episode talking about that. It's such a.
I think I know a guy who'd happily rant about it.
Oh really? Okay, good.
Maybe
we'll get them on.
But look, I've actually never given it a go, in fairness, and it's one of those. It's not because I've got any particular stance against it. I just haven't really got round to it. It didn't really cry out to me as a must-see film. But maybe I'll watch it and think that's not as bad as everyone said it was. It could probably was one of those ones at the time everyone reacted to it because they're like, that's not original Ghostbusters, and it was probably an overreaction. But watching it 5 years later, you probably go, it's actually pretty good if you don't get too hung up on the fact that it's a Ghostbusters film and just take it for what it is, just as a film with some good acting.
I don't know, man. It's pretty bad.
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and see the other.
It's interesting to go. Okay, let's do a reboot and let's do an all-female cast. Awesome, great. But the problem was that the approach to actually making the film was very. They basically ad-libbed most of it, like the whole.
But aren't the actors good at ad-libbing stuff? Isn't that
sometimes? But then also,
did Bill Murray ad-lib a lot of stuff? Like
yeah, but he didn't ad-lib like a lot of stuff. There was a script they worked from, and there was a story they were making, and there was all that kind of stuff. And then any magic that Bill Murray brought was just extra icing on the cake, right? True. Like, we'll talk about. Obviously, I think Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2 will probably be two biggie films that we talk about when we get through it. But I'll tell you what I'll do. Let me just quickly whiz through some of his movies, because the other thing is, like as I said earlier, he is a prolific producer. Like Ivan actually produced more films than directed.
He seems to be a successful producer than a director. If you look at his CV, he's an incredibly successful producer.
Absolutely, and I mean, just to pick out some oddities, like he produced the new Baywatch film that came out in 2017 with The Rock.
Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, he did that. He did the Hitchcock movie. He did obviously Up in the Air for his son, Private Parts, Space Jam. Now, did he? No, he didn't direct that. So
the new Space Jam as well. I think he did that one as well.
It's not on his CV here, so I don't think he did, unless he exec produced it. He exec produced it. Yeah, absolutely right. And then even exec producing, he did some interesting ones. He did things like Road Trip and Euro Trip. As I said before, like Beethoven and Beethoven Second. Wow, this sounds fun. I've never heard of this. I bet Dustin knows this. Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, 1983. That sounds like a Fleet Hit movie right there. Yeah, tons of stuff. Obviously, the big hitters in terms of his producing career, like he produced Heavy Metal, the animated rock movie. He produced Animal House, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, Space Jam, obviously, stuff like that. He recently, I've not seen any of these, so I've heard of it though. In 2009, he produced Hotel for Dogs, The Uninvited, I Love You Man. Godmothered was the most recent production credit along with Space Jam and Ghostbusters Afterlife.
We've got a comment here. We've got a comment here, Benny, about Batman. Now, I think that was one of the ones that he it was in pre-production, or they were doing a script for it and just never got green lit. There's a few. Have you got a list of the films that?
So, interesting, unmade projects. So let me just quickly. Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Tom. So in the 80s, Tom Makewich, I probably said that wrong. So he wrote a script from for a film entitled The Batman, with Reitman attached to direct. He planned to cast Meatballs star Bill Murray as Batman. Could you imagine that? That's like one of the ultimate what ifs. Imagine Bill Murray as Batman. That'd be incredible. Oh my gosh. Interestingly different. Like, hey, I'm Batman. That'll be Bill Murray, right? David Niven as Alfred Pennyworth, William Holden as Commissioner James Gordon, and singer David Bowie as the Joker.
That could have been sick, actually.
Wow.
You probably stole it.
Yeah, that would have been incredible.
Been a great Joker. But
so
imagine,
yeah,
I think the franchise would be what it is today if that film had happened. Hard to know.
Yeah, that's incredible. I never knew that. And also in April 1996, it's reported that Reitman was attached to produce and possibly direct the Wonder Woman film.
Yep.
However, 3 years after that, he passed the project on to John Cohen and left for unknown reasons. So that was back in 1996. They were going to do Wonder Woman. Wow.
Wow.
So he was also in the running to direct Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Correct. Lost it to
Chris Columbus. Obviously, he did an incredible job, like setting up that whole universe. Other directors that I didn't realize this. Other directors that were up for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, people like Rob Reiner, M. Night Shyamalan, Alan Parker, Tim Robbins, Terry Gilliam. Could you imagine if Terry Gilliam did Harry Potter? Wow.
Reitman, like based on those other choices, you think he was probably a close second to Columbus, because it would definitely suit his genres and his capabilities, I would think.
Yeah, 100%. Like big fantasy world building. Yeah. I think sorry to keep referencing this Mark Maron podcast, but he talks about his directing style and how he doesn't really direct actors because he wasn't very comfortable doing it, but he knows how to sort of shoot a film and make a film, feel a certain way. He said that Ghostbusters is very like theatrical, the way it's shot and all that kind of stuff. And that's true. And he could have brought something like that to the Harry Potter series, because one could argue that, Chris Columbus did a great job on the first and second film. I still think the second film's the best in the whole of the Harry Potter movies. And people only seem to remember the third one onwards because it got dark and grown up. But visually, the first film wasn't as spectacular as some of the later editions. What if Reitman had done the first one? How more spectacular would it have been? Who knows?
That's an interesting point you made with the style of Ghostbusters. Have you ever heard of a theatrical version of it?
Of what? Sorry, the
Ghostbusters. Has Ghostbusters ever been brought to theatre? Not cinema?
Oh, like as in like the stage?
Yeah, stage.
I don't know if it has.
When you make that point, it would actually lend itself pretty well to that, I think.
You reckon it could be a fun musical? I guess.
It could be a good musical, absolutely.
Especially if you have the original Ghostbusters, like obviously the theme, who you're going to call, but also the piano. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, that could have been really fun. That could be really fun. They should totally do that. Okay. Yeah. So that's unfinished. There's some other little stuff here, like he was going to make a sequel to his movie Evolution. There is he will produce an upcoming animated series called Ghostbusters Ecto-Force. Which I think is still on the cards. That's still happening.
Is that like a throwback?
Oh, Alex is saying in chat there was a Universal Studios stage show. Okay, so what part of the Universal Studios thing they would have a permanent stage show or something? That'd be fun.
Yeah, cool. It could even go Broadway. I reckon it's a good enough story and there's good enough music and characters and jokes. I reckon it would lend itself pretty well.
Well, it'd be really fun to see how they do the ghosts. If they could do some kind of holograms or like a guy in a Slimer suit being like, do it Spider-Man, the Spider-Man theatrical, Spider-Man stage show they did when they literally had people hanging off of wires. Just have a guy in a Slimer suit hanging on a wire being thrown around a theater and being shot at by proton packs. That'd be incredible. It'll be a hit. It would. They should totally do that. Oh man. That's bizarre. I didn't realize it. Like that Batman film. Wow. Like if anybody uncovers a script of that, they should do an animated version of that, right? They should totally do like Bill Murray as Batman. I know that a lot of the
Yeah,
other guys
true.
involved aren't with us anymore, but like, you know how they did? They brought back, oh man, who was the 1960s Batman? And they brought him back for an animated feature, and he did the voice.
Adam West.
Adam West. Yeah, like they should do that with Bill Murray. Give Bill Murray his
They
Batman.
should, yeah. I can't
That'd be
believe
fun.
we've been speaking this long about Ivan Reitman without talking about Harold Ramis.
I know.
Like,
It's incredible. Yeah.
Or even Dan Aykroyd. We've just been talking about Bill Murray the whole time. We haven't even talked.
I know.
Didn't he
Well,
start his career sort of in cahoots with Aykroyd?
Kind of all in cahoots with all four of them, to be honest, because I think when they were all sort of like early sort of like comedians starting shows and doing stuff on stage, I think he was sort of around them, helping them out.
Yeah.
Cool. But he was certainly more like he was friends with Harold Ramis, and then he met Dan Aykroyd and obviously John Belushi and all those guys. He was sort of buddies with all of them. Because the story goes that he gave Bill Murray his first starring role in a film called Meatballs. Which was, I think, one of his early movies that he directed back in 1979. Whoa, the year I was born. Oof. Wow. Yeah, this is interesting. So, like, when you actually look at like films he's directed, he actually directed, when it comes to features, 1, 2, 3, 4. Ghostbusters was his 5th feature film.
Yeah,
like, that's pretty good, man. Like, and his first couple of movies were like proper low budget, like grimy low budget features. He did a film called Cannibal Girls in 1973. Which I think was like a super low budget film he shot for SoftBank.
That sounds like a Dustin film.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if there's any VHSs of those kicking around. And then he did the Stripes movie, and then Ghostbusters, which
I haven't seen Stripes.
No.
I watched a little bit of it like the other night. It was just on TV, but I really should give that a go. Like how can it not be good? It's like the film he did before Ghostbusters, right?
Yep, the one just before.
83,
81. 84 was Ghostbusters, 81 was Stripes.
Okay. Bit of a break. I guess there was a lot of work, I suppose, went into the script for Ghostbusters and probably funding the project and everything, because that's quite a long time between films.
Well, the incredible story, Ghostbusters has got such a long story of its production. Like, you know, Dan Aykroyd came up with a story that he wanted to star with John Belushi. John Belushi very sadly passed away. When it comes to Ghostbusters, the original script that Dan Aykroyd wrote was kind of unfilmable. It was all set in space. And it was all about these kind of like these squads, these kind of like police force that were Ghostbusters and all this sort of stuff. Like that whole story of the original script that Dan Aykroyd wrote was so out there and so wacky that it was kind of unfilmable. But like Ivan Reitman and Howard Ramis kind of saw the potential in the story and the idea of the Ghostbusters. So I think the story goes that they all went to Ivan Reitman.
Can I hear Slimer in the background?
No, that's my daughter doing a Slimer impression. Yeah, she might run around in like green outfits. So they basically all bunkered down at Ivan Reitman's sort of holiday house for like a month. And just rewrote the script, and they essentially wrote what Ghostbusters is now that we know and love. So Dan Aykroyd.
If you can tell, it's a film that was made by people who were just mates and like loved the ideas and just had a few beers, threw a few lines out there, and came up with this pretty random but pretty cool story. It definitely has that feel to it.
For sure, man. I'm gonna give props to a documentary that every Ghostbuster fan should watch. This was a Kickstarter documentary that was released like a couple of years ago. It's called Cleaning Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters. I think you won't be able to get this on streaming unless you can stream it directly from the creator's website. I recommend getting a Blu-ray copy. It's essentially it's a feature-length documentary done by this, I think they're brother and sister production team. Essentially, it's got the last ever interview with Hamill Ramis talking about Ghostbusters on it. It's really special, and it goes really deep into the creation of Ghostbusters. Dan Aykroyd's on here, obviously Ivan Reitman's on here, Ernie Hudson's on here, Annie Potts, all the other guys who were involved in the film, apart from Bill Murray, because Bill Murray never used to talk about Ghostbusters for years and years and years and years and years. He was just not interested to talk about Ghostbusters or the making of it.
When you met him, obviously you asked him.
Yeah, I said to him, "Hey, can you talk about Ghostbusters?" And that's why he kicked me out of the makeup room. Yeah. Oh man, what an experience to have. He only recently started doing it. He did it for the movies that make us on the Netflix. They've done a Netflix.
Yeah, no, that's a really good, I think, introduction. If you want to go deep on Ghostbusters production history, that's a great way to start.
I would say that's good surface level, but if you want to go balls deep,
correct,
you get this, because this is incredible. I'm trying to find the runtime on this. This is just such a wonderful watch, because it goes so 46 interviews from crew members and obviously the cast. They've not got a runtime. Oh, runtime 128 minutes. So what's that? That's almost a couple of hours. Oh, it is a couple of hours. Yeah. So it's good. But then there's loads of extras on here, like, you know. So anyway, check that. Look at that up online, guys. Cleaning Up the Town, Remembering Ghostbusters is a wonderful documentary. And look, just if you love stuff, and who doesn't love stuff? It comes with all sorts of stuff. Like you get a little Ghostbusters patch.
Oh wow, that's so cool. Is that what is it? A coaster?
It's like it's a patch, so you can put it on like your bag or your jacket.
And a jacket.
Yeah, a little Ghostbusters little button.
Pin badge.
Yeah, you get a little thing saying thank you guys, you know, in the DVD, and there's a little booklet, like, you know, with all the photographs and artwork and stuff. So it's it's well worth doing. And like I said, it's got the last ever interview with Howard Ramis before he passed away, which is really sad, but there he is with the directors. So yeah, it's put it this way, we're not going to be able to go into do the history of Ghostbusters justice in an hour and plus year podcast, but this documentary is the best way to really kind of get your teeth into it.
Great.
So, but yeah, so Ivan Reitman. So obviously, Ghostbusters was his big hit. So I guess we should really talk about Ghostbusters because, like, not a lot of people in the world nowadays are going to have to experienced it when it first arrived on the scene. I mean, I remember going to see it at the cinema.
You do?
It scared the shit out of me. Yeah, man, because it came out in 84, so I would have been 5. My parents took me to the cinema. I couldn't sleep. I can't sleep now. I can't sleep because it was a 5-year-old kid watching the scene with the librarian lady when she turns 100%. Into the monster. Oh my god!
Oh, like that still kind of spooks me. It's so creepy. Like they did an incredible job on that. Like it sets the tone of the film. In fact, it's the scariest moment in the whole film, to be honest. But
for sure. But then there's other things in there when you're younger, like, you know, people turning into dogs. Dana floating above a bed. The taxi driver who's the zombie. Like, there's a lot of. It's a scary film when you think about it.
I was so upset because I think it probably came out about 6 months before I was born. So it was already in existence when I was born. But by the time I was probably 4 or 5 is when I started watching it. And I saw Ghostbusters 2 at the theater when I was. I think I was 89, so I think I was 5. And I loved it. But it was similar. There's things in there that genuinely freaked me out. Like when the bathtub has all the slime and like he tries to eat the baby and all that. I was like, wow, that's full on. But I distinctly recall seeing it and absolutely loved it. And I was obsessed. Completely Ghostbusters obsessed. Real Ghostbusters was a new sort of cartoon around that time as well. So
that's great. Yeah. That's so good.
I love those as well. That was a cool spin-off. And then you could get like those. I remember Ghostbusters 2 when it came out on NES. I remember playing that. I had a Proton pack.
You had a Proton pack? No way.
Proton pack. I think it was my 5th birthday party or birthday. I think I had a Ghostbusters themed birthday party because the present I got for my birthday was the Ghostbusters fire station, and you can I had an Ecto-1 which could actually go through inside the fire station. I was the happiest kid.
Dude, where's all this stuff now? Now?
Man. Like, if I had kept all my stuff from childhood, now I'm obviously trying to buy back my childhood, but like I buy back the whole video store and then some, along with the retro games. But yeah, like if I kept all those childhood toys, man. I
know. Oh man, especially in Firehouse. You don't see the Proton packs around anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like you every now and again when you walk into like a secondhand store or something, you might see like an Ecto-1, a Slimer, the figures, or the house, but you never really see a Proton pack kicking around anymore.
I wear that thing around like everywhere. Like it was just glued to my back. I was obsessed with it. So it obviously had a big impact on me. And then it branched out into all things monsters, and you know, Ghostbusters was just an entry point for that sort of genre, and I started loving sort of child horror, child fantasy, that sort of stuff, and branched out from there. So it had a huge impact on me, man. I absolutely loved it as a kid.
Yeah, it's a fan. I mean, like it's when you buy books about script writing, there's particular genre films in the 80s that are always in the script writing books because they are so perfectly formed in terms of the script is so tight, the story is so well told. And it's Back to the Future is always in a script writing book.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters always in a script writing book because the film is just so well written in terms of its structure, what happens. I mean, the first one, yes. The second one, you know, it's a bit of a hot mess, but it's fun and it retreads on the old one. But but it's good. You know what I mean? It's great.
Yeah,
Like Marnie and I rewatched the second one on New Year's Eve because we have a child, so
of
we stay
course.
in and have a couple of drinks, and it's set on New Year's Eve. Like
Correct.
Marnie was like, "Oh, we should watch that because it's on New Year's Eve, and it's perfect." And you know, when you rewatch it, you kind of forgive some of the goofiness of it. You know what I mean? Like the fact that they make the Empire State Building walk by covering it in goo and play it like uplifting music and stuff like that, and control it with a NES Advantage controller and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's a NES Advantage. Yeah. It's all that kind of stuff is so good.
Oh, that's a good detail. Okay.
We've got a comment here. Alex says,
by the way, I'm pretty sure it was the Statue of Liberty, not the Empire State Building.
Oh yeah, sorry, Statue of Liberty. Sorry, guys. Sorry, it's been I've worked so hard the last few days. I'm tired. I'm sorry. But thank you for correcting me. Alex Hawkins says there's another really interesting documentary called Ghost Heads that focuses on the fandom and all the people over the world that dedicate huge parts of their lives to Ghostbusters. Oh man,
that sounds like the Back to the Future one. What was the Back in Time?
Back in Time. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's as good as that, I'm very keen to give that a watch because
I have to check it out.
People have gone crazy, like with the level of obsession with it. So I'm keen to see that.
But Ghostbusters was like, it was genre creating. Like there was never really like a comedy horror film before. Like it really started. It was so original, so fresh, and so interesting. And like, you know, has not been with the sequels, with the reboot, all that kind of stuff, like away from Ghostbusters. You know, I'll be hard pressed to see like say another horror comedy that's really captured the lightning in the bottle that Ghostbusters. You got things like Zombieland and stuff like that, but it doesn't have the same charm, the same creativity, the same. No, somebody came up with an idea about people going out and catching ghosts and being called Ghostbusters. Like it's amazing. Where did that come from?
What's so impressive about the film is how much appeal it had now and back then when it came out to children and adults alike. There's not many films that adults and children unanimously love as much as something like Ghostbusters. Even something like Back to the Future, I would think, probably a bit more child and adolescent friendly, but Ghostbusters is very adult friendly as well as very kid friendly. Huge appeal. It's just so like, it's like The Simpsons or something. It appeals to kids. It appeals equally to adults. It's just such a good script. The adult humor, the kids don't get it. The adults massively do. But then there's things that adults won't understand that the kids just love in the film. So it's a great film to grow up with, actually, because it's as enjoyable to watch now as it was as a kid, just in different ways.
Yeah, 100%. And you notice more as an adult as well, certain things you missed when you were a kid, like the Bill Murray being
pretty much everything Bill Murray says.
Bill Murray does. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, absolutely.
You instinctively knew you liked him, but couldn't quite work out why. Then as an adult, you're like, okay, that's why I like him. He's pretty smooth. He's funny.
So smooth. I love the in Ghostbusters 2, he's got that wonderful line when she goes, "Don't you try your cheap tricks on me," as Sigourney Weaver, and he turns around and goes, "Oh no, don't worry, I've got a whole load of new cheap tricks." So like, it's so good. That's so good. Nobody else could deliver that quite as well as Bill Murray. It's just incredible. But yeah, okay. So look, in between, so Ghostbusters obviously came out in '84. So in between that, there was a couple of movies, Legal Eagles, which I've never seen, and then. And I would argue, actually, that this film had more of an impact on me than Ghostbusters, and I'll explain why. And that is in 1988, he made and released Twins with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. And there we are. Tommy is holding up
playing in the background on my cathode ray tube television on the
Look at
VHS.
that. Look at that, kids. If you didn't know, a cathode ray tube TV is how we used to watch television back in the day, the good old CRTs, the old boxes. But yeah, Tom is holding up a mint copy of Twins on VHS.
It's pretty nice copy, this one, actually. Yeah.
It's a great copy, man. And why I love this film because my grandmother, weirdly enough, had a copy of it. And I used to watch it every time I went around her house. And I just loved how the play between Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. How the fact that Danny DeVito is the crap that was left over from creating Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is this perfect thing. So if anybody hasn't seen Twins, which is be really surprising,
it's a beautiful movie. It's such a charming film. It really holds up. I watched it a couple of years ago again, and I was like, that's still a fantastic film.
It's great because Schwarzenegger plays this man child. He's basically
he's
like
a perfect
toddler
specimen of man, in all facets except actually being an adult. And knowing
exactly
is
the world's greatest, most wonderful, nicest guy who has just been sheltered from the evils of the world, and he comes into the world to find out that he finds out he's got a brother, goes to look for his brother, and of course his brother is Danny DeVito, who is this. What is his? Is he a secondhand car salesman or is he a thief? He's something sort of not. He's a dodgy geezer.
I think he's got debts. What's it? Julius, highly educated but sheltered giant with a big heart, and Vincent, a pint-sized hustler with an insatiable lust for women and money. With girlfriends in tow and a hitman on their trail, the newfound brothers set off on a wild cross-country misadventure to find their mother, but end up finding out more about themselves. So it's quite sentimental. It's very well acted. I must say, rewatching, DeVito carries the film, and you realize how good an actor he is. He's excellent. It could be his best performance of his career.
He's wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. In terms of like when you think of when you think of Danny DeVito movies, I would say I always go to things like Twins, Batman Returns.
Yeah, correct.
And then I kind of get stuck.
Junior?
I've not seen Junior. I hate.
Okay. You don't need to. It's inessential.
Yeah, I mean, I get the plot. I get the story. It's a man getting pregnant.
Correct.
And it's not actually a direct sequel to Twins, is it? It's like a spiritual sequel.
Yeah. Yep.
So I wonder if Triplets is going to be a direct sequel to Twins or not.
I would hope so.
Because I think that'd be really fun if it is. But yeah, Twins. I used to watch it all the time around my grandmother's, and I for years I didn't understand. Oh, Tom's holding up a mint copy of Ghostbusters on VHS. The wonderful red clamshell with the black sleeve looks so good. It looks so good. So yeah, Get Shorty. He was in Get Shorty. Sorry, that's a comment in the the comment. So PCars 964. Yeah, it was. I didn't realize for years. Do you remember the scene after Schwarzenegger's had sex for the first time?
Yeah, I think so.
And he's just lying in bed with this massive grin on his face.
Yeah.
And he's just staring, and he's like, it's the most hilarious thing ever. It's just so beautifully played out. Like this, she's smoking a cigarette, and he's just lying there, just like a statue, big grin, staring at. And like for years, me as a kid, I had no idea what that was all about. Why is he so happy? I don't know. And then years later, watching it, I'm like, oh, I get it.
Well, it's like the air hostess I just saw that before, the air hostess. I'm like, oh wow, okay. Didn't fully appreciate this as a child, but I can see his face lights up when he sees this woman. He's like, oh my god, it's like he's never seen a woman before. It's just very so sheltered, man.
And he's got that wonderful line when that guy runs into him, and because Schwarzenegger's meant to be, it's this Adonis, this guy just runs into him and then falls over. And the guy goes up to him and goes, "What did you do? You punched him." He's like, "I didn't do anything. It was the pavement that was his enemy." Schwarzenegger's like, oh man. What a wonderful pairing those.
Well, was it his first comedic turn, Ben? Was that? I think it might have been his first comedic turn.
It must have been. Hold 88. On, let me just 88. So let's see, because obviously Kindergarten Cop came later.
That was 91, I think, or 90.
Yeah. So let me just see if I can just find.
Like 87 was like running.
Yeah, 100%. You're absolutely right. First time starring in a major comedy. Yeah, because the studio viewed this as a significant risk compared to having Schwarzenegger make another profitable action film. Schwarzenegger voluntarily took no salary in exchange for a share of the film's profits. Nice. Co-star Danny DeVito and director Ivan Reitman made similar deals. When the film was a major financial success, it made a box office of $216 million against an $18 million production budget. That's pretty good. The three together earned a significant share of the overall profits. In a 2016 interview with Graham Bensinger, in which Schwarzenegger recounted the story, Schwarzenegger stated that the decision to invest in myself by trying comedy and foregoing the salary in exchange for a share of the film's profits was one of the best decisions of his life.
Well, it's probably almost as good as his decision to become a villain. Maybe not quite as good a decision as that. But.
Well, when he became Mr. Freeze,
the Terminator.
Oh, of course. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Before then, he was hero, and no one was him potentially being a bad guy until he thought, hang on a minute. I think I can do a good job at this.
You're absolutely right. You know why? Because I keep forgetting that the Terminator is a bad guy, because Terminator 2 is a good guy. And then in Terminator 3, he's a good guy. And in Terminator 4 and Terminator 5 and Terminator 6, he's a good guy. And then you're like, oh, the Terminator's a good guy. And then you're like, oh, no, actually, he was a bad guy for that one good film. Because there should only ever be 2 Terminator films at the end of the day. So
I can't imagine. It's one of those things. I can't imagine having seen the Terminator first, because I didn't. It'd be amazing to have watched that as a new film and then seen T2. I can only imagine how good that was. It was good enough watching T2 first and then going back and seeing The Terminator. But I think the way around probably was the way to do it, especially if you didn't know about the turn.
Oh, 100%. It would blow your mind. It's like the first time you watch Empire Strikes Back after watching Star Wars and learning Darth Vader is
close
Luke
to that
Skywalker's. It's incredible. Amazing. I was exactly the same. I saw Terminator 2 before I saw Terminator. Arguably, I think.
Did you see
No,
it?
I was too young. I was too young.
Were
So
you?
I saw it on VHS. Yeah, man. Terminator 2
Yeah,
was 91.
91. About 12?
I was 12 years old. It was 15. My dad was very, very strict on on that kind of stuff. He wouldn't let me watch anything that was rated 15 until I was 15. Tessie, sorry, dude. My sister, my little girl is just playing with a light. There you go. Sorry, guys. All right.
So is this a Schwarzenegger podcast or is it a term?
No, well, we could do another one. There'll be a Schwarzenegger podcast.
I think there should be a Schwarzenegger. Maybe bring.
It'll be a three-parter. You know what I mean? We'll do like his films, the early films, middle films, and his most recent films. I don't think you could do like
forget most recent.
Oh, he's got a couple of fairly good ones up his sleeve. I think.
Does he?
Anyway, all right, let's get back to Ivan because now it's 1989. What a wonderful year 1989 is. When Ghostbusters 2 was released.
No, he didn't direct that, did he?
He did.
He did.
Yep. He directed and produced. These are all films he's directed. Yeah, so I'm going through his directorial filmography now. But he also produced a lot of these films. The only films on this list he didn't produce was Meatballs and My Super Ex-Girlfriend. But the rest of these movies on this list he directed. So I feel like we've already kind of talked Ghostbusters 2, like, you know what I mean? It's good, but not as good as the first one. It's still got that spirit. It's great, and it's great to see the guys back. But Ghostbusters 2, better than Ghostbusters 2016, that's for sure. I
love Ghostbusters 2, but I think it's just I was a kid when I saw it. So
yeah, it's whatever you experience when you're little, you kind of stays with you. So after that,
nothing beats the original. But yeah, so then what? Then what is
true? After that, so 1990, yes, Kindergarten Cop. So it's like he did Twins, and he did another Ghostbusters, and he went back to Schwarzenegger. Yep, did Kindergarten Cop. Kindergarten Cop, I've only watched it a couple of times a long time ago. But obviously man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I need to catch up my Arnie films. I really do. I'm way back. I just need to rewatch a lot of stuff. But
that's a big one to not have watched like 100 times.
Who is your daddy and what does he do? See, this is the thing. Like Ivan Reitman. So in this interview, he says that he's not an actor director, but really he got so many good performances out of actors. When you think about imagine being the guy who is directing Arnold Schwarzenegger in his first comedic role in Twins, and that falls on your shoulder as the director and producer of the movie, and you are foregoing a salary to get that film made. Like, and he's not. He said he's not a really an actor director, but he managed to get so many getting that performance out of Schwarzenegger in Twins.
Yeah, I think you have to give DeVito some credit though, because he was the perfect foil. So having DeVito to bounce off would have massively helped him. You would think.
True. Yeah. That is genius casting. You're absolutely right. Yeah, those two together.
But Kindergarten Cop was all on him. He was the solo lead comedic performance, and he pulled it out pretty well. I think he just continued what he'd done on Twins and thought, I think I've got a good handle on this. I'm going to do exactly the same type of character. I'll just reprise it with a slightly different context. And it was... So a lot of people would probably remember Kindergarten Cop more fondly than Twins as a childhood film. It's probably more popular. Yeah.
Well, it is. Yeah. No, sorry. It's not weird at all. It's weird for me, though, because Twins was just... I just watched Twins so much, just so much.
Yeah. I think for a lot of people growing up, Kindergarten Cop, because when you're a kid and, like, it's set in a school and Schwarzenegger's the teacher, it's a perfect kids movie, like, growing up watching Schwarzenegger as a 90s kid.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of genius on Ivan's behalf as well to kind of go, here's, like, the biggest star in the world, Schwarzenegger. Going to put him in a comedy. If this works, then wow, I could just do so many more things with him. It's kind of like good on him to have the foresight as a filmmaker to know that was like a very smart thing to do, and like capturing lightning in a bottle and doing that. Because obviously he then went on to do other movies with Schwarzenegger, such as Junior and some other stuff. Now, the next one he actually does is not Junior, it's Dave in 1993 with with Kevin Kline and Sigourney Weaver. Now I hate to say it, I've not seen Dave,
I've
so I
not
can't
seen
really
Dave.
comment on it. Yeah, I'm a really big fan of Kevin Kline, but I've not seen that one. So sorry, guys. Then obviously 1994 Junior.
Did you say Sigourney Weaver?
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver was in that one. Yeah. So
was
again,
was that the first one he'd done with her since Ghostbusters?
Well, he did Ghostbusters 2 with her.
Sorry.
Yeah, then did Kindergarten Cop, then did Dave. So in terms of producing in between Ghostbusters 2, so 89 to 93, what did he produce in that time? Nothing. I think he produced Stop or My Mum Will Shoot.
Yeah.
Which was a John Candy film, wasn't it? No, that's Sylvester
Stallone.
Stallone. Oh my God. So actually he tried to Jesus. So he tried to work the magic with Stallone in the comedy film, huh?
Isn't that the one where Schwarzenegger gave him a bum steer and he basically Schwarzenegger hustled and to psych out Stallone, he's like, "Oh, I really want that."
I think
part.
you're right.
Stallone's like, "No, I want that part." And Stallone got it, and Schwarzenegger's like, "Ha ha, suck in." I didn't know.
Holy crap, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I totally forgot about this film. Oh my gosh. So like Ivan Reitman tried to sort of kickstart Stallone's comedy career as well. Wow.
Big 80s action hero, comedic turn, seems to work. Yeah, not with Fly, mate. Like
no. Stallone. I like Stallone. He's great. He's incredibly talented. This guy wrote and directed Rocky. He's a smart man. He's done some awesome stuff.
But One Trick Pony, maybe.
What then he did?
Pony.
Yeah, true. I don't know, man. Wow. So obviously that didn't work. Tried to do the same thing twice, but with a different actor. But obviously that's why he then but he only produced that. He didn't direct it. So it's kind of like he obviously went, okay, we'll try this, but I don't want to put all my eggs in. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket here because I've got a bad feeling about this. So Sigourney Weaver. No, Dave was the next time that you worked with her. And then after Dave Jr. in 1993.
Yeah.
Which again, I'm sorry to say I've not seen. I've only seen bits of it, but I didn't realize Emma Thompson was in it.
Yeah, Emma Thompson. That was a big role for her.
Yeah, a young Emma Thompson. Emma Thompson like crops up in so many movies. I forget she's in back in the day, and she's such a wonderful actress.
I would say she's the standout performance in Junior. I would say.
Right.
It's not the best film, but she's very good in it, from memory.
I just remember seeing the trailer and Schwarzenegger going, "My nipples are very sensitive." That's all I remember from Junior. That's the only thing I can remember. After Junior in 1970, Father's Day, which was a film starring Robin Williams and Billy Crystal. I guess that's kind of, I got that confused with
Sounds good on paper. I haven't seen it. Sounds good on paper.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Williams.
Yeah.
I think was brilliant.
You know what is interesting, actually, looking at this filmography and harking back to Ghostbusters, and obviously the fact that Ivan obviously liked actors and people he liked working with who came back and did more stuff with him. Obviously, the biggest person off this list, considering he gave him his first feature role and worked with him in 2 movies, is Bill Murray. I think until we get to spoilers, Ghostbusters Afterlife, I don't think the guys actually did anything together after that. But there are those horror stories of the fact that Bill Murray was a complete dickhead on Ghostbusters 2 and was just.
I thought he was a dickhead on Ghostbusters 1.
I think Ghostbusters 2, he was really unpleasant, and I think that probably was part of the. Maybe I'm guessing that's probably why the 2 didn't do much after that. That's certainly why Murray never talked about Ghostbusters, was never interested in doing Ghostbusters until he must have got a nice big brown bag full of money for doing a cameo appearance in the 2016 reboot, as well as obviously rocking up for the latest one. But it's just interesting when you look at, because directors love working with actors. Look at the relationship that John Carpenter had with Kurt Russell, the relationship Scorsese with DiCaprio. It just takes one bad experience and one bad movie, I guess. Okay, so after Father's Day, it's 6 days and 7 nights, which is an interesting one, because I think this was obviously Anne Hesh.
Anne Hesh.
Yeah. Is Hesh? Is that how you say her surname? I always get her surname wrong. Hesh.
It's been a while since no one's really thought of her since the 90s. So forget how to say it. But look, it wasn't a bad film. Like, it was actually quite well edited and produced, but
I think this movie, I think it wasn't there stories about how Anne and Harrison just did not get on at all, even though they're starring in this film. And that kind of, sabotaged the movie in a way, just because they weren't sort of gelling on screen as well as off screen. I think there's some stories about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've not seen it, and I'm a massive Harrison Ford fan, but I've not seen that one either. Sorry, guys, what a great fodder for a podcast here. Sorry,
what have we done?
Me not watching half of these movies.
Okay. I saw it at the cinema, and actually, it was a film that was quite good in the cinema, but I feel like rewatching it not so good. Doesn't hold up particularly well.
Doesn't hold up. Yeah.
No.
After that, in 2001, we got Evolution, which is obviously the David Duchovny. Yeah, Orlando Jones, Sean William Scott, William Moore, and Ted Levine. Sean William Scott. Do you remember old Sean William Scott when he was in pretty much everything in that kind of late
1990s to the
early 2000s?
Yeah.
Wasn't he in that film called Bulletproof Monk with Chow Yun-Fat?
He tried a couple of more serious roles, I think. Yeah, Chow Yun-Fat.
Chow Yun-Fat's great.
Totally forgot about him. Jeez, yeah. There you go.
He was in Bulletproof Monk, yeah, and a lot of other stuff, obviously, like including all the American Pie movies. But that's an interesting one. I think, did he write this as well? No, he didn't. That's the other thing about Ivan Reitman. He directed a lot of stuff. He produced a lot of stuff, but he didn't write a lot of stuff. He didn't. He wasn't. No. He worked with the guys on Ghostbusters, the first script, and sort of helped mold that. I think he's always behind the scenes helping sort of mold scripts, but he hasn't got any like hard and fast writer credits. Evolution. That I remember that causing quite a stir when it came out. I just remember the poster more than anything else, the big kind of smiley face with the three eyes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the green eye. Yeah, whatever it is.
Now we're getting into more up-to-date stuff now, sort of. So 2006, he did My Super Ex-Girlfriend. 2011, he did No Strings Attached. In 2014, he did a film called Draft Day. Now, I've not seen those three films, I'm afraid. But I've not really heard of... I've heard of My Super Ex-Girlfriend because it just seemed to be released at a weird time where, you know, Uma Thurman was sort of coming off the back of being in Kill Bill and all that kind of stuff. And Luke Williams...
A lot of great 80s and 90s directors had a bit of a wobble going into the noughties. For whatever reason, they were on a good thing for those glory years, and then things just went a bit weird in the noughties.
Yeah, just trying to sort of like recapture that kind of comedic gold, but not quite getting it as sharp as it was. Like, and it's a weird 2006. So if this is 2006, then we're talking about, you know, we've had Spider-Man 2, we've had the Blades, we've had the X-Men movies, like superhero films are starting to sort of like have their day in that kind of like weird 2000 period.
Changed. What was funny had changed. Like it was just the vibe had changed. It wasn't the same anymore. And those directors I think struggled. And they're getting a bit older. It's like, you know, they're not this young, hot director anymore. They're getting on a bit. There's new guys and girls coming through, and you know, they're kind of losing it a bit.
Yeah, I think, you know, taking that concept of like a super ex-girlfriend where your ex-girlfriend is a superhero, it made sense for the era. And Uma Thurman is great casting at that point. But yeah, just for whatever reason, it didn't really find its feet. I'll have to watch that one day, though. I'm intrigued by the concept. I wonder if that is ripe for a remake now. I wonder if you did that now, you could do it. But you wouldn't do it, like maybe you do it in more of a modern sense. Where you kind of, I don't know, it's not just the platonic sort of like guy girl. Maybe it's like a couple of girls. Maybe it's some, you know, something a bit more up to date and a bit more fun. You could have more fun with that. I think a whole raft of that kind of My Super Exes could be fun. I guess that's what Scott Pilgrim was at the end of the day. Thinking about it. So
I really need to see that film.
It's great. It's great. It's not for everybody. It's really fun, though. It's really fun.
Michael Cera, right?
Yeah, and loads of other people. Like, there's tons of really good guys and girls in there.
I'm an idiot. I really should have seen that. But
watch it tonight. Surely you can get it somewhere. I don't think you can get it on VHS, so you might have to get it on.
No,
watch it on Netflix.
What year was it? It was like 2007,
2010.
No,
2009, 2010. Yeah, no, it'll be on DVD. It'll be on streaming service somewhere.
VHS. I think the VHS era ended around Batman Begins. I think that's like the last major release people regard on the format. It's one of those ones where there was heaps of DVDs, even Blu-rays, I think, around then, 2006, maybe. HD was probably the HD DVD crossover era. And Batman Begins, I think there weren't too many, for all the Luddites who still were playing their VHSs in 2006, hadn't moved on yet to DVD. It was quite limited in terms of, I think, how many they stocked in the stores. DVD, there was heaps, and maybe HD DVD or Blu-ray, there was a couple at least. But that, it's like, it's a random sort of collector's thing. But if you get The Phantom Menace on VHS, it's worth nothing. If you get Attack of the Clones on VHS, it's worth even. If you have Revenge of the Sith on VHS, it's worth about $150.
So what, rental?
No,
X-rental? No,
not even X-rental, just sell-through, retail tape. Because it's so rare to have it on that format, because by 2006, probably when it was released on VHS, no one was buying VHS anymore. Everyone was buying DVD. So
see, everybody's now clicking like eBay, Gumtree. Who's got checking their VHS collection at home? Hold on, Dad,
like,
do you still have my VHS copy of the Revenge of the Sith?
Attack of the Clones. Damn! I knew I had the prequels on VHS.
Amazing. That's amazing, because that's the same thing in retro video games. Like a game that was released towards the end of a console's life, it's just worked. Like
it's like
a
NES game games. 1995. It's like that's a rarity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's so interesting. Holy shit, VHSs, man, that's crazy. That's
a whole other world of collecting, man. Like, put it this way, with VHS collecting, there's a lot more stuff in the wild than there is retro games. All the games have been plundered, it would seem. If there's still things that pop up on Facebook and whatever, but most people are asking way too much. And then the ones that are underpriced, it's the most ridiculous feeding frenzy. Within 10 minutes, sold. Like.
I know you and the Gav man have had that experience recently, right? We've seen stuff and it's just gone like gone. Half an hour, 20 minutes. By the way, I apologize about Tessie's going to bed and she doesn't like putting her pajamas on, so sorry about the crying in the background. No one does. Absolutely, man. Like it's mental at the moment, the amount of stuff that's sort of popping up and getting snapped up so quickly. It's crazy.
It's putting a lot of people off the scene of collecting. It's just too hard. Like but everyone wants a bargain when they're buying still, but everyone wants like top shelf prices when they're selling. It's like, come on, like. There's no. You're the problem. If you're being stubborn and asking too much for your games, but then you want things for cheap, think about it. Like that's not going to work. You know, the whole market's moved because people are asking too much and people are paying, and so that benchmarks it.
True. No, it's weird. It's definitely
like this
a bit of a seller's market. Oh yeah. Oh nice. You picked it up.
Yeah. I got this.
Hold on. Is that a new pickup or
I got it a couple of weeks ago. It's one of those ones that you're never going to find this cheap in the wild. It's too much of a rarity. It's too good a game. It's too highly regarded as like a hidden gem on the system. So it's just one of those vertical shooters. Beautiful graphics, just classic, arcade sort of shooter.
Can you pronounce the title for me so people who are listening in can know what the title is? Is it
Ikaruga?
Ikaruga. Come on, spill. How much did you fork out for that one?
I think I paid less than 100, which is a really good price. I think it was very early January, and eBay. I guess not many people had followed the ad, and I thought, I'll put like $95 bid on. You never know your luck. Normally it goes for about $115, $120, and it was lucky enough to win the auction. So that was a bit of a fluke because GameCube is probably the hottest console right now. So it's hard to get GameCube stuff cheap.
It's true, and I've just started that journey. Sorry, I just had a naked baby walk in. We're trying to get pajamas on a naked child. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. GameCube, what a system! Like,
it's hot.
Where did you nab that one? Was that a marketplace, or was that a Gumtree, or was that?
That was eBay. It was one of those.
Ooh.
It's one that you're not going to find that like in the wild. Like it's too hot.
Yeah, sometimes eBay does sometimes deliver the goods every now and again if you're lucky.
Yeah,
you can find the odd thing there
it's worth
too badly priced
and just seeing what happens. You never know. Some people might think you'll follow it and you'll be like, oh, that'll go for 200, and you're like, oh crap, it didn't. Maybe I should have bid on it. And then you have those moments where you realize, look, eBay is often the most expensive place to go, but not always. Sometimes you just get a deal if you're lucky.
Yeah, true. All right, should we? we're going off on a wonderful tangent on retro games, which I could carry on talking about for edges. But we should really wrap up our little walk through
Ivan.
the films of Ivan. So we kind of got to the end of his directing list there.
Well, we got into the audience, and I got a bit bored and distracted, I think. So
fair enough, man. I mean, like, you know, to wrap up, you know, this Ivan Reitman special edition podcast, episode 3 of the 1989 podcast. I mean, the key thing about his films were the fact that the man knew how to inject heart and magic and warmth into his pictures. I think that's why they're so special. You know what I mean? You know, especially the films like Ghostbusters, especially Twins, especially like he was a comedy director who didn't mind taking risks, who liked taking risks, you know, like taking, like we just learned, taking a risk on Schwarzenegger as his first comedic role, putting his salary and career on the line to get that film made, working on a little tiny independent movie nobody wanted to finance, which eventually turned into Ghostbusters. You know, just created a lot of incredible films that are going to stay with us forever, and also entertain and bring joy to a lot of future generations. And the fact that his son Jason is a very prolific filmmaker and a great filmmaker in his own right. So as we said, he just directed the recent Ghostbusters Afterlife. Just very quickly, just to run through some of his credits, just to kind of give him a shout out. So yeah, Juno, which was made back in 2007 and he was nominated for Best Director for that. And then he did Up in the Air, which had a ton of Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, BAFTA nomination, and Golden Globe nomination. And he did a movie. He did Young Adult, Labor Day, Men, Women, and Children, Tully, The Front Runner, and Ghostbusters. So he likes his dramas, and he likes his sort of
more serious role, a bit more serious stuff than his dad, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like, I guess you could say, more grounded, less sort of comedies. But he also directed episodes of The Office on TV.
Yeah, right.
He acted in a few of his dad's films. I'm just seeing here. He was a grandson in Twins. He was a kid in Ghostbusters 2. He's got little cameos in his dad's movies, like Kindergarten Cop and Dave and Father's Day. He's like he's all kids in there. But yeah, he's been nominated for a ton of stuff. So, you know, and again, listen to that Mark Maron interview with Ivan Reitman, because he talks about a lot of this stuff and how Jason, his son, really did feel, coming from that filmmaking background, how he had to find his own way to get to make movies rather than being on the curtain tails of his father, which is
huge shoes, big time.
We've got Alex
try and follow in their father's footsteps, because it's just how could he possibly? But he's having a good go at it, and we'll see what he does now. He's not old.
No, he's 44, so he's still got many films under his belt. Alex Hawkins
that's drive until their 40s, 50s, 60s. Even, so.
Well, yeah, like Ridley Scott didn't direct Alien until he turned 40. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was the same year I was born, so the guy's almost 80. So, hello, what's going on? You gonna go to bed? Sorry about the bum. If there's one coming up, I'll do this. There we go. There we go. I'm blocking. I'm censoring potential for people listening to this on audio and catch up. My daughter is walking in the background of the camera, and I'm using my hand to just censor her buttocks. There we go. She's out of that.
John, actually, you've done that before, haven't you?
Sorry. So Alex in the comments said Jason was also the kid at the birthday party in Ghostbusters 2. Oh, okay. Was he the one that says? Was he the one that goes, "Oh, my dad says that you guys are losers" or something? Probably. He's probably that kid, right? Might have to watch Ghostbusters 2 again and see if it's that guy. If that was Jason Reitman. But that's a nice bit of trivia. Thanks for sharing that, Alex. Well, there we go, man. That was a great chat.
What a career! What a prolific and fantastic director.
Yeah, I feel like I need to watch more of his films I've not seen. Like go back and watch things like Dave. Go back and watch things like Super Ex-Girlfriend and a few other things, because they're obviously he did some interesting stuff. And when you're a filmmaker, you don't want to be just remembered for the biggies he did, because he probably put a lot of heart and soul in these smaller films that didn't get their due. So
I'm just thinking, if we were, just to bring it back to the bar, right? So if we were to do a Reitman film 89, what would it be? Is there anything in his catalogue that would...
we should do well. Let's do his if we can get a copy of it on VHS. We should do his first movie. Yeah. I'm gonna tell him about it. What do you want me to? What do you want to say, Tessie? You gonna say hello? Hello. Good girl.
Hi, Tessie.
Hi, Tessie. We're at Cannibal Girls. So his 1973 movie Cannibal Girls, an independent grindhouse comedy horror. So there you go. He was doing comedy horrors.
That's a Dustin if we can get
100%, man. Yeah. If he's listening, Cannibal Girls. Let's see. So let's just have a quick look at this. So grindhouse comedy horror films. He was doing comedy horror.
I know he's got one called Cannibal Hookers. I don't know about Cannibal Girls.
Is that
he's got a lot of different cannibal films, and we know another guy who's got even more cannibal films. So
true. Hey, I was just thinking. I actually did the horror comedy world a disservice then, because just to clarify, there is a director who also did some really good horror comedy, and that is Mel Brooks. He did Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, okay.
Which is arguably...
He's not as good.
Not as well known, I'd argue, but very funny. Like, Gene Wilder, Spaceballs, but that's science fiction comedy. So I'm talking about horror comedy. True. Like Frankenstein. Yeah, Young Frankenstein's great. Okay, so very quickly, was this released? So Cannibal Girls was filmed between 1971 and 1972 in rural areas around Toronto, Canada, because it obviously grew up in Canada. Town scenes were shot in blah, 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 blah. I was also Carry On Screaming. Yeah, that's true, Alex.
That's a very old film. Like, that's before all the cannibal films kind of kicked off, right? Like Holocaust and all those. It's before.
Yeah.
So,
well, yeah, I guess so. Hold on. So there was a re-release as part of the South by Southwest Film Conference in March 13th, 2010. The film was released on DVD, so we can get a DVD copy of it. Okay, leave that with us or Dustin. We'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Sure. All right, Cannibal Girls. Let's see if we can get it at the bar. That'll be fun.
And in terms of mainstream, is there something that could fit into guilty pleasure? Like, it's probably too popular, but Twins almost could fit that space. Maybe, I don't know. It's probably too popular.
Maybe. My Super Ex-Girlfriend? I don't know. Have to watch that. See what it's like. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. TBC. We'll give it some thought and see if we can show Ivan some Jew through the VHS flea pit. But that's a lovely idea, Tom. That's great. Man, thank you so much for joining me for episode 3.
That's okay, man.
How am I going to entice you back on the podcast every time we do a movie-themed one, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the bar has many strings to its bow, and I think the flea pit is a lot of fun for those who've never come along. And as wonderful as all the retro gaming and stuff is, which we all love, of course, but the movies, the trivia, there's other shit going on, which is a lot of fun. So for those who haven't come along to a movie night, hopefully there's some interest and intrigue, and you're welcome to come along. And what is it, $15 now for tickets with a free...
15 with a beer, yeah, or a wine.
$5.
Whatever your tip is.
For a grimy old VHS film with trailers, fuzzy picture, and slightly off sound. It's great. What more could you want?
And a crowd of people who love that kind of stuff. That's one of the best parts. I'm glad you mentioned trivia. So everybody watching live tonight or watching listen to the audio version of this when I put it up later on this evening. What is the date today? It's the 21st, right? Tomorrow is the 22nd, Tuesday 22nd. Trivia returns back live at 1989 with Gav the Gavinator. Being your wonderful host and testing your pop culture knowledge. It's free to join in. It is tomorrow night. If you want to come and join in, just rock up at the bar before 7 o'clock, grab your spot, and we will test your knowledge. And you could win a bar tab if you come first or second place. So it's a fun night.
What about third?
Third now. Come on, really? I think I used to, and I might do this tomorrow. I'll bring it back. I think we used to shout the third team a round of drinks.
That's
so first gets a tab, second gets a tab, third gets a round of drinks. There you go. We'll do that. That's what the prizes are. Yeah.
And what else got coming up, Benny? What's the next?
So yeah, next week we've got the NBA Jam competition.
Oh yeah.
So we're on the Thursday, 3rd of March in cahoots with Netherworld in Queensland. We are throwing an NBA Jam competition, and also in cahoots with Hop Nation. So Hop Nation are coming to the bar, and we're doing a little bit of a tap takeover. We've got 3 of their beers on tap and a couple
Are
of
they doing
beers
the Boom
in pack.
Shakalaka? Was that them?
Well, that's what they did. No, that was
Who did that?
another brewery who I've forgotten off the top of my head. But Top Nation are doing a beer for this event, which I think is called
cool.
Boom Shakalanga Ding Dong or something crazy like that. I should have this information in front of me. So this is a beer they brewed especially for the event. You'll only be able to get it at the event. If you buy a ticket, it's a 2 versus 2. So 2 teams versus 2 team playoff NBA Jam competition. The idea is that you essentially, if you win, somebody's asked me, are we bringing back the Retro Arcade anytime soon? So the Retro Arcade, yes, I'll mention that in a second. If you win this competition, Netherworld are flying down the winners of their competition to play in another event. So basically, it's like Queensland versus New South Wales to win. Yeah, State of Origin on an NBA Jam. We are the reigning champions at the moment. And I noticed that Chris and Sam bought their tickets for this event, so they will be defending their title. So yeah, if you really like NBA Jam, it's $40 for 2 people. And both you get this special beer brewed by Hop Nation. I'm just getting the name of it now. It's called Slammer Llama Ding Dong Cairo Pale Ale. So it's a Cairo hop pale ale.
What's a Cairo? What's a Cairo?
Cairo is a hop. It's a style of hop.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember?
Yeah.
Cairo. Cryo. Yeah.
Cryo. I thought you said Cairo, like Egypt. I'm like, what?
I probably did.
I haven't heard of that one.
At this point, I'm ready to fall asleep right now. But yes, I probably did.
Like
Cryo pop.
Like,
yeah, like
Garage Project one you had.
One Drop.
What was that? One Drop. Yeah, the Cryo. I was there yesterday.
Really? They got some good stuff. They do. They have. I hadn't had the ice cream machine stuff before. But they had a beautiful chocolatey Milo-y stout, which was 10.5%. And I had a sip of this. I'm like, no, it's not really a 28 degrees summer's day sort of beer. And they're like, yeah, but we put it through the ice cream machine. I was like, all right, can we go with that? Beautiful. It was like a sort of gelato almost, with a bit of back end bite from all that alcohol, but beautiful. Nice.
It was a pure sort of ice creamy gelato experience. It was wonderful. And I think that was one of the ones at Gabs, the beer festival, where there were those massive queues of people and we just couldn't get any of those beers because it was such a new sort of concept to freeze a beer and have it like an ice cream. But I tell you, if anyone can pull off weird concepts like that, it's One Drop.
Oh yeah, they're great. And they're doing so many big bizarre beers right now. I don't know how they do it. They do so many. Like every week when I get the email blast, I'm like, wow, I can't keep up with them. But so if you fancy coming and playing in an NBA Jam competition, Thursday, 3rd of March, from I think we're starting the competition at 7. You can grab your tickets online, www.989arcadebar.eventbrite.com. If you just want to come into the bar, free entry as usual. If you want to come and watch the competition, just rock up. You only have to buy a ticket if you want to play in the competition. But you get the beer, you get an enamel pin, a special limited edition enamel pin for the competition. And like I said, if you win, you'll be playing off against the guys from Netherworld's winners, which would be very, very cool. And then,
you got a title to defend by the sound of it.
And we have, So like, come and help us defend the title. The other thing is that we are also going to be bringing back our Retro Arcade Club, which is a Sunday event that we do once a month, which essentially is all the arcade is on free play for about 4 hours on a Sunday afternoon. And it's $15 a ticket and you have 4 hours of free play. Both floors, all arcades.
Kids or
that was the initial concept. It was done so you could bring kids into the bar and it was free play and it was fun. Now you can actually just bring kids into the bar because they changed the laws on small bar licenses last year. So if you do have an under 18, as long as you're a guardian or a responsible adult, you're very welcome to bring them into the bar from 5 till 9 o'clock. But if you do want to taking part of this free play event, I'll probably bring it back maybe next month. We'll see how we go. At the moment, people are still like quite understandably still sort of like shying away from crowds and events, but I do want to bring it back because it's
some places get smashed. Depends where you go.
100%. Like big pubs, like the fair day on yesterday was pumping. There was hundreds and thousands of people out yesterday. It was incredible. But yeah, well, that's cool. We're all slowly but surely getting used to life with COVID, right? So,
exactly. And when you bringing back the console, like the N64 comps and stuff like that,
I'm soon. I want to do an upstairs large big screen N64 competitions. I've got Willie the Boatman. They are going to be sponsoring those events. So you buy a ticket for one of those events, you get Willie the Boatman beers, which will be very exciting. I've just got too many things to do and not a lot of time. So I need to get on top of all that. So yeah, it's all in flux. There's tons of things coming. So please stick with us.
Great.
And I will
it's back with a vengeance by the sound of it. So
man, yeah, I just need to find time to get it all organized. Play my little violin. Anyway, Tom, thank you, man, for joining me. Awesome to chat. Next time we do one of these, I'll have more sleep and I'll be like, yay! But it's really nice to talk about Ivan Reitman in his films because he's a man that deserves to be remembered, and his films will always be dear to our hearts and discovered by young fans and new fans alike, and bringing joy. That's one of the things about being a filmmaker and making something that has so revered, means so much to people. You will never die as a person. You'll always be remembered, and your work will carry on, and people will always want to know who you were and what you did. And I think it's
especially his film. I think films will cross over so many generations because they're so instantly watchable. You don't need some films. You need context. You kind of had to be there. I think with Reitman's stuff, you didn't. It's just it stands on its own two legs. Like,
100%.
That's the power of his filmmaking, his comedy. Like
this is it, and it's a key to immortality in a way. All right, thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for joining us on a Monday evening for the live recording. If you are listening to this post live recording, thank you for listening. Please do continue listening. All episodes are available on our SoundCloud via our website. If you do want to join us live, we broadcast this live every Monday. I'm changing it to every Monday at 7:30 as of next week via Twitter and YouTube. Just search for 1989 Arcade Bar on Twitter or YouTube to join in. So yes, I will see you soon for a beer, hopefully, Tom, and hopefully I'll see everybody else for drinks and fun times in the bar at some point in the future. All right. Good night, Tom.
Right, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. See you, mate. Take care, man. Bye-bye.